never will I ever become wealthy without the bank of mum and dad. This is absolute nonsense. Although it might be helpful to have the bank of mum and dad get you on the property ladder or start you off in your business journey, it is not a requirement. It is not a prerequisite at all. It's total nonsense. In some occasions, and particularly in my experience, it actually helps not having the bank of mum and dad, because what experience has taught me in talking with colleagues and in meeting other people who have tried businesses, failed businesses like me, tried and failed, tried and been successful, is when it's your own money, things are a little bit more serious and you take a little bit more time. You know, people say, oh no, I take everybody's investment. I'm sure you do, and I do as well. When I've had investors, I've taken considered time with them. But when it's your own money that you're investing, you take every decision that little bit extra carefully when it comes to what you're spending that money on. So when I was, oh goodness me, when I was still going to school in high school, we didn't have anything really. We were not particularly well off. My mum and my stepdad were on benefits and they didn't work. So, it is what it is. But if you want things, you got to pay for things, right? So I used to get £2 a day, and this is going back into the 90s now, so it won't be the same price, but this is just me when I was a kid, okay? I got £2 a day, I got £1 for my lunch, and I got £1 for my bus fare, which was for there and back. I think it was 38p there and 38p back, so what's that, 76p? So I would get me £2, and I would go to the shop, and I would buy £1.50's worth of, those quarter sweets that you can buy in the jar, like pear drops, Everton mints, that sort of thing, bonbons. I would buy a selection of them. I'd go to school and sell them all for 5p each at break times and at lunch times. And I'd get not a load of money, but at the end of the week, I'd be left with about £10, £15, which then funded me going out, going to see my friends, or it would be going to the cinema, going to the swimming baths, all the sorts of stuff that you want to do as a kid. Because nobody taught me how to save money back then. Saving money wasn't something that was on my radar at all, because everybody I knew got money, spent money. So nobody actually said save money and invest it in something, or save money to invest in something, rather. So that was one thing that happened. And then one Christmas, I don't know whether this is going to work, there was a game, I don't know if we can get it up on the screen, called Pass the Pigs. And basically, Pass the Pigs is a glorified dice game. It's two little tiny pigs, one's with a dot on one side and nothing on the other, and you throw the pigs like a dice, and how they land determines the score that you get. And the goal is you've got to get up to 100. So I figured, actually, this is like a really good game that we can make money from. So I used to go into school. But this is part of the ingenuity bit. This is part of resilience, right? I went into the school, and every lunchtime I would have a little quasi-casino where you would bet anything from 2p up to 10p. And 2p was nothing even when I was a kid, by the way. So, I'm not that old. 2p up to 10p, you bet, and you got to try and get to 100 without stopping. And of course, inevitably, most people didn't get to the 100, and I get to keep the money. But those that did got double the money back. So if they bet 2p, they get to 100, they get 2p back. If they get to 100 and they put 10p, they get 10p back. So there was not really much skin in the game from their point of view. But for me, I walked away with an absolute fortune. And the interesting thing about it is I didn't know it was gambling at the time, but there we are. I understood that people like to gamble from the age of 15. And I made maybe £30-40 a week in school. I loved going to school because I made money every day I went to school. And I used to sell sweets, which I realized that was not going too far. It was really difficult to sell sweets because the school started opening their own tuck shop. And because they opened their own tuck shop, it was really, really difficult then to be able to sell sweets. But past the pigs, on the other hand, my goodness me, I made a fortune. So I'm not encouraging people to gamble, but what I'm trying to encourage you to do is think a little bit outside the box. Especially don't gamble without a gambling license, you get into trouble with that. But that's what I did. And again, I wasn't really taught about saving money and why saving money was important. The other thing I wasn't taught about was credit and building up a credit score and building up credit risk, credit files, these sorts of things, which we do cover in other episodes and we do cover behind our subscription channel as well. So please feel free to go into that if you wish and you want to learn about credit scores. So I know that there's a very famous person over the pond who said, when he started, he got that small $1 million loan from his father. And, that's great. He became a billionaire and went on to become the president of the United States twice. But not everybody's mum and dad has got a spare $1 million. So what do we do if they haven't got that spare $1 million? Well, you've got to start being creative. And one of the other things that I did, every Tuesday and Thursday, I went to jiu-jitsu. That's the Japanese jiu-jitsu. Brazilian jiu-jitsu hadn't sort of emerged at that time. And every Tuesday and Thursday, I would go, I would do my training. I absolutely loved it. And on a Saturday, I would take the class and I would get the money from the subs for the class. So that might be an extra tenner or an extra 15 quid, depending on how many people turned up. But I actually, later on in my life, I actually turned that into a business. And I started jiu-jitsu classes and I had 4 classes a week running successfully. And although they didn't make huge amounts of money, what actually happened was some of the guys who I knew said to me, "Oh, do you want to come and do some security work with us?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do security work with you." So I went on to do security. It was door supervision. I don't like to use the term bouncer because I couldn't have bounced anything back then. I was about 11 stone soaking wet. I could probably bounce a lot now, but different times. And I had a really great, successful career working in security. I love security. I worked all over the shop with it. And I actually ended up setting up a training company that specialized in teaching people security. So all of this led from these little classes every week where I could learn jiu-jitsu, went on to teach jiu-jitsu, then went on to do security, teach security, and I had an absolute blast of a time doing that. And the point was I didn't have this sort of set roadmap, and I certainly didn't have anybody invest in me or loan me any money. I had to do all of this on my own. Now, I'm not saying it's not good to have people to help you with it. Now, when I set up the training company, I actually had a business partner, a lovely fella who I met in security actually. And we both invested money into the business together. And I think the total was £4,000. We set up an entire training company with 4,000 quid, which I know that may sound like a lot to some people who might be listening or watching this. But actually, £4,000 to set up a training company was not a lot of money even back then. And we went on to do sort of £250,000, £500,000 a year. And that was a really great business. We thoroughly enjoyed it. I absolutely got tons of value from it, not just from the working in the company, but the experience that it gave me. Leading other people, teaching people, learning how business really works in the real world, because you think everything's shiny and new and everybody does everything by the book. That's total crap, particularly in the training world. Actually, as an aside note, I'll tell you this one story. We used to work with the government-funded training companies, and we were what's called a sub-provider. And these primes, what they would do is they would get a huge pot of money from the government that they had to spend. So every month they would say, like, how many people have you signed up? And we might say, I don't know, 20. And they're like, well, why can't you sign up 30? Because they had to spend the money. And every month, everybody else, all these other providers, they would have all of their contact logs. So every month you have to get in touch with a client, a learner, and you have to sign all of this stuff off. And we were the ones that didn't do it all the time, because I was like, oh, well, they're off on holiday, or they've left the company, or they've left the occupation and they're no longer a security guard now. They're working in Aldi stacking shelves, for example. And they would go mental on us because everybody else managed 100% of the time to always capture all these contacts. And it turns out, of course, what they were all doing, which we didn't know because I was naive, is at the very start, they just get 5,000 signatures from all their learners. And then every month they don't speak to them. They just fill it out and submit it, which is fraud, by the way. And I don't recommend you do that. But that's how they got away with it for years and years. And they still do it now to this day. And many of the providers, that's how they get around spending so much money. And it's usually very wasteful as well, because the government charges about £15,000 for a course that you can actually go and get privately for about £3,000. So the government gets charged all this extra money for what we don't know. But the point here is the bank of mum and dad do not have to be the determining factor in whether you're successful or not. Looking for opportunities and taking them, that's the important part. Taking them, that's the important steps that you have to take. I didn't have the bank of mum and dad, and that's absolutely fine. But I created my own opportunities through selling sweets, through Pass the Pigs, through jiu-jitsu, through teaching other people. Looking for opportunities is the right approach and the right attitude to have, but not everybody has that. My invitation to you is we've got an absolute huge back catalogue of various opportunities which are very little cost for you to go and try. Some of them are even completely free. Go and have a look at them and see which opportunities actually resonate with you. You go, actually, I'm really good at this. Maybe you're good at digital marketing. Maybe you're good at cycle tours. Maybe you're good at shopping. Maybe you're good at fetching other people's shopping for them. And you can monetize all of those different things. We've got episodes covering all of those ideas in the links that you'll find below. So don't worry if you've got no bank of mum and dad to support you. Don't worry if you don't have that deposit for that house yet. You can get the deposit through the side hustles that we can go through with you on our channel. You can get the deposit by looking for opportunity. And there is nowhere that it is written you only have to work 40 hours a week. That is absolute nonsense. Somebody 150 or 250 years ago came up with the 40-hour work week. That does not apply to today's lifestyle. It does not apply to today's culture. Back in the 50s, you could have one parent go out, work 40 hours, come back, and you could buy a house, go on 2 holidays a year and sustain a family of 4, which is the husband, the wife, and the 2 kids, back then in the 50s. Nowadays, you need 5 jobs just to sustain 1 person in the house because, you know, inflation's taken over, the economy's taken a nosedive, people in charge are hurting us, all that stuff you can argue with. But there are opportunities for you to make money even now. So you could spend your time complaining about the problems in society and how it should all be fixed, or you can start finding the solutions, finding the opportunities and start fixing them for yourself. And then once you've made your own bed, you can start looking at helping other people make theirs. I hope that's been useful for you, and I hope you've understood looking for the bank of mum and dad is not always the right option, and it's not always possible. You can create your own opportunities and build your own resilience. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.